creatives, it is no secret that we usually don't have any problems coming up with ideas. They're like frickin' popcorn that just keeps popping in our brains even when we don't want it to. The trouble often comes with turning those ideas that are scattered and messy into an actual project. So that's what we are going to talk about in today's video. And don't forget to stick around all through the video to let me know about the free resources that you would like to have based on each section that we discuss. So let's get weird about words starting right now. What's up, my writing weirdos? Hey, it is me, BC, and of course this is BC Brown Books, where we like to get weird about words in the ways that only writers can. We write them and we talk about writing them a lot. And no surprise, we're going to talk about writing them some more today. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to get all of that shitstorm of ideas that's trapped in our head, and all the messy, just scattered thoughts that we have distilled down into actual story idea. And quickly, before we get started, I want to say thank you to subscribers Renee Strength and Daniel Burns, as well as patron and subscriber Jamie Pearl, for planting the seeds and kind of requesting this video, as well as a series of videos that I have planned and have been doing so far. In addition, make sure that you go ahead and get weird with my subscription and my notification buttons because, like I said, I am planning on expanding out this video into more elaborate and more detailed videos about the subject of taking messy ideas and actually creating a single story idea with them. And don't forget to check out last week's video, because that bad boy there about character profiles is actually how I take all of my brainstorming and refine it down into a single idea. So the first thing that we are going to just dive right into is I want to talk about our brainstorming process. Specifically, don't overthink it. When brainstorming, it's really important as writers that we don't self-censor. Write down every single idea that you have. Doesn't matter how odd duck it is, doesn't matter how fucked up or weird it is, go ahead and write it down anyway. This includes not confining yourself to the genre that you think you want to write. When we self-censor as writers, we often end up with less than stellar storylines. The reason we do that is because we doubt our own ideas that are going into that story. And if we doubt our ideas, then our readers are going to doubt our ideas, whatever. You know what I mean talking about. So don't censor yourself. Write everything down, because before you can start refining an idea, you have to have lots of ideas in order to work with. And if you're even worried about knowing how to brainstorm in the first place, I've got a video for that. It'll be linked down below. Check it out after this or before you start your next project, or, hell, whenever. The second thing that we are going to do once we move on from just tossing everything down into a brainstorming session, doing our character profiles and the like, all of that, is the uber geeky, super nerdy thing I'm about to say. Color code that shit. Yep, that's right. My stationary nerd just came screaming through. But in all fairness, color coding makes it so easy to just visually, quickly identify the ideas that we have and how many of them we have. The point here is to link together all of the similar ideas that we have that are cause and effect ideas, and we use, of course, the same color to do that. This shows us clearly where we have stronger ideas and where we have fewer ideas that are maybe a weaker story. And some of those weaker stories will actually be used as some type of subplot, or can be used as some type of subplot within our books. But it's also okay to realize that some of those subplots or some of those ideas are going to go absolutely nowhere, which is cool too, because story ideas that go nowhere for one brainstorming session might lead into a totally different project later, which is actually how I got book 2 in the Metaphysical Chronicles series. While brainstorming for book 1, I got the idea for book 2. set that bad boy aside, tackled it later when I was ready, after I had done book 1. Well, kind of the same time I was doing book 1, but after I'd gone through all the brainstorming of book 1. Now, once we have all of those colors, we are gonna plug and fill those into a world building guide and our character profile guide. And if you guys want me to create a free resource for these 2 particular items, let me know down in the comments below. I would be happy to share with you. I just need to kind of polish up the one that I use because it is rough as shit. Now, once we get into doing this plug and play effect for the 2 different guides that I discussed just a moment ago, I can almost guarantee that this is going to lead into more brainstorming. And that is perfectly okay. There's going to be one small difference between our initial brainstorming, though, and this one. And this time, we are actually going to censor ourselves. Just a tiny bit. We actually want to constrain ourselves to the topics, the ideas, the subject, the genre, all the little minutia that we came up with that's defined within that one particular color that we had the most of. So that's the one that we're going to flesh out. If the ideas that we're generating right now don't quite jive with that particular main storyline that we're talking about, it's okay to just set it aside for now. Now, because we have done our guides at this point, we've done some world building with them, we've done some of our character profiles, because a lot of that will come from us just doing general brainstorming. We're then going to take a quick look at our guides themselves. We're going to set aside the brainstorming and take a quick look at the guides themselves. Any gaps, this is where you fill those in. It's okay if we still have some gaps in our world building guide. More of that information is going to kind of come along as we write. That's going to be when we start to fill in those details later on in drafts 2 and 3 in order to kind of fully flesh out the world itself. What we want to focus on is making sure that as many gaps as possible, preferably every single one of them in our character profile guide, is actually filled in. We have no blank spaces, and we know everything there is to know about our characters. We want to make sure that we have everything nailed down for our characters, because here is where we're actually going to start with an outline structure. So the 4th thing we are talking about is, of course, choosing what type of structure you want to do. And I've created videos for that. A few of them. Because there are a lot of them. So you can check those out later. Now, I get a ton of questions about what is the personal outline structure I use. And I actually have this weird personal hybrid combination thing of the 3rd act structure and the snowflake method. And if you would like to see what my exact outline process looks like in some type of guide, hit me up down, of course, in the comments. Now, we're going to move on to number 5, which is probably the most important thing. It's not the most important thing, but it is pretty damned important. And that is to stop doubting the ideas. Most writers do exactly what I do when I'm starting to write my brainstormed ideas and guide answers into an actual outline, and we start to doubt ourselves. We start to doubt the efficacy of our ideas. We start to doubt how good they are, how unique they are, how interesting they are. Every little bit. If we can throw up a bit of self-doubt roadblock here, we do it. And we do it all before we really even write a word. Yeah, we've written some brainstorming ideas, we've written some character profiles and some world building, but we haven't actually written any part of the story yet. And we're already doubting our ability to write it. I mean, how stupid is this? How can we even know if our ideas are going to work if we haven't even tested them out? Number 6, we got the beat, we got the beat, we got the beat. Okay, none of that. Once our ideas are actually plugged into our outline structure and we have told that little naysayer in our brain, or all those little naysayers in our brains, to shut the fuck up, we use those to create our story beats. Here is where we're going to find whether or not we need more information or more ideas, aka if we need to do more brainstorming. or if the ideas themselves can even come together into a viable story. This is where we can let a little bit of self-doubt in, but it's not actually self-doubt. It is actually taking a critical look at our ideas and how we've strung them together and whether or not they logically go. Don't worry if they don't logically go together quite yet. It does happen. And what it means most of the time is that we just need to do a little bit more fine-tuning on our brainstorming. We might need a couple more ideas, we might need another subplot, we might need another character thrown in. But it doesn't derail us entirely. And those are basically the 6 things that we have to do to turn messy ideas into an outline. But wait, we're not finished yet, because you might be wondering what the hell we do next. What we do next is zero drafting. And a lot of you out there are probably going to ask me, what the hell is zero drafting? Zero drafting is a little different for every writer. But for me, what it does, it consists of me looking over those beats and just writing the core of the beat into a scene, figuring out who's going to be in each section in order to develop that beat, and kind of where the beats will take place. It's really short, really sweet, usually bullet points. It's not anything elaborate. It's not even really getting into actual prose or exposition or dialogue. There might be a few bits of dialogue here and there, things that pop into my head, but most of the time it's just bullet points. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, this is just like an expanded outline. And is a zero draft an expanded outline for me? Yes, it is. But I have 2 parts of my zero drafting process. With those 2 parts, I do the expanded out bullet points. I kind of say, hey, this should take place at the auto dealer. This should take place in a cafe. This is going to take place over here, and it's going to have these characters going on. And then I go back in and actually start writing little bits of the scene, little bits of the characters, little bits of the dialogue. And I kind of write until it exhausts itself. But I try not to write outside of the beats I've actually put in there. That's what I do later in the first draft. I flesh out that stuff. My zero draft is really just the core of things, the overall tone and feel and core. Now, you might be thinking, I don't really want to do all those steps, and that is totally fine. A lot of writers jump right into doing their first drafts, and it's okay. You do you. You write with whatever process you need to write with. I take a couple more steps because with my ADHD brain, I get really rambly, I get really tangenty, and I can get off subject, topic, scene, beat really quickly. And that tends to de-evolve into having more brainstorming and sudden epiphany moments, and then my story looks nothing like what the outline says it should look like. And I have gotten so far off track that I either now have to scrap all that work or do some more work and come up with something new, which I probably don't want to do. Because let's face it, I'm lazy. I'm lazy as shit. But again, will this help you? I don't know. Adding the extra steps may help you. I'm simply letting you know what my process is. Well, that is pretty much it, my writing weirdos. That is how I take my messy brainstorm of ideas and I distill them all down and refine them into an actual outline. To support more content like this, don't forget to check out my Patreon as well as my merchandise store, which is linked down below. Smash that like button and get weird with my subscription and my notification buttons. And you probably should do it pretty soon because, well, this is the end of the video. See ya.